So we have an EU candidate status. We started the accession talks only this year. Actually, the first screening process started this month, and our Ministry of Justice and our colleagues were there in Brussels, starting the screening process. This is the position, the geographical position of North Macedonia. So it's a halfway path from Georgia to Spain. And the structure, I will briefly introduce the structure of our judiciary. It's a three-level instance court structure. We have 27 primary courts. We have 4 appellate courts and 1 Supreme Court. Our Judicial Council was established in 1994, and it's consisted of 15 members. 8 of them are judges, and 3 of those judges must be from the minorities living in the country. So we have this principle of equal representation of minorities in our constitution, and it's applied also in the judiciary. One of the members of the Judicial Council is the President of the Supreme Court, who is also a judge. So the total number is 9. And the other members are the Minister of Justice and 5 members who are not judges. 2 of them are proposed by the President of the country, and 3 of them are proposed by the political parties and chosen by the Parliament of the country. What I talked about with Leah before starting this debate today, and mentioned that in our country, a judge, according to our law now, cannot become a president of the Judicial Council. And this is something that we judges believe it's kind of discriminatory towards the judges. I know that there is an initiative in the Constitutional Court ongoing now, and hopefully this decision will be overturned, and in future judges will have right to become presidents of the Judicial Council. What Leah mentioned interested me very much, and that is the live interview of the candidates that you will have now. That is very, very transparent, and I cannot imagine for now ongoing that this going on in Macedonia for now. We haven't reached that level of transparency yet, although I will talk about it later. We have some improvement in this area. We have administrative courts, and it's only 1 primary court for the whole territory and 1 higher court, the Constitutional Court, and we have Academy for Judges and Prosecutors, which was established in 2007, and also equal representation of minorities applies in the accession to the academy. So we have a quota for minorities that will later become judges or prosecutors. I will only briefly mention the history of our judiciary, and what is more important is the post-socialist format of the judiciary. There was a general re-election of judges in 1996, and it was some kind of waiting process for the post-socialist period of our country. I wanted to mention the period of 2006 to 2016. The foreign experts that were visiting our country, they stated that Macedonia in that period of time was a captured state. Also, the judiciary was kind of hostage to the ruling politicians, and we had a lot of ongoing cases just from that period of time. There was a formation of a special prosecution office, which was dealing with these kind of cases, with high politicians' crimes. And I have to mention that our previous prime minister, he is now living in exile in Hungary, while his cousin, who was actually the mastermind of wiretapping in Macedonia, and he was the head of the secret police, is now in jail. And there are still cases pending for them and for other high officials from that period of time. From 2016, we have a period of, I would define it as a moderate progress. It's definitely progress in all areas in the judiciary, but still, for me, it's moderate and it's not enough. Today, we have issues of lack of judges. I calculated that we have around 430 judges at this moment in Macedonia out of 640 posts. And this number is decreasing every day. For example, only yesterday, one of the judges was dismissed for disciplinary. We are with number, we are above the European average of judges. And that is something that is always mentioned and stated by the European experts and officials. But for me, this is not an issue because actually we have a lack of judges because of a big number of cases in our courts. This lack of judges was caused mainly because of the Academy of the Judges didn't produce candidates for a two years period of time recently, and this gap now is one of the major factors that we now have a lack of judges. Also, there is a retirement issues. So only this year, like 70 or 80 judges will go to in retirement, and a number of cases are still growing. So we have courts, especially in smaller or remote towns, that are with one or two judges, even without judges. This was resolved partially with delegation of judges from bigger courts to these smaller courts. But for me, this is not a resolution to the problem because it creates backlogs in the hometown courts where these judges origin, and still they are not so efficient in the new courts where they are delegated because they are delegated there only for a period of time like 6 months or maybe a year, and then they return to their own courts. Therefore, we are thinking and working in the new strategy for the judiciary for the next period of 4 years, and we are thinking about rationalization of courts network, where those smaller courts that we perceived as inefficient and costly, they will actually become units of the bigger courts. And for me, this is a good idea because it will also better the practice, unify the practice, court practice, and there is an issue of access to justice. Some of the experts point out, but we believe that having in mind that Macedonia is not a large country, and with the digitalization process, every citizen will have access to justice. Of course, there is an issue of salary and status issues about the judges. This is an everlasting issue in our judiciary. According to the comparative analysis that our Association of Judges made, salaries of the Macedonian judges are lowest in Europe. For example, first instance judge receives around 900 euros net pay. Salaries are frozen for around 15 years or more, and they haven't been increased. And there are huge efforts and pressure from the judges and our associations towards the government, especially in the past few years when this crisis with COVID and financial crisis caused with the Ukrainian war took place. There are some advancements in this issue since the Ministry of Justice, under pressure of our association, proposed changes in law, and now these changes are in the parliament of the country, but still because of the blockade from the opposition, these changes are not still in force, and they're not adopted by the parliament. So we are not optimistic on this question. And this is only the tip of the iceberg, because according to our strategy in the association of judges, this is only one of the many requests we have for improvement of the material status of the judges. I must mention that despite the activity of our association, majority of judges are and their level of judicial activism is not on satisfactory level. There is a sense of self-censorship, I could say, and there is a feel of dissatisfaction by the judges. So we try to encourage them to be more proactive and actually fight for their rights. And this needs a change of mindset. I hope that this will come with the new generation of judges. One of the biggest issues we have in Macedonia is the transparency issues, and we focus on this with a lot of energy lately. This is because the trust in the judiciary is historically low, mostly because of the perception of corruption of judges and ties of judges with political and business elites. And also because of the perception that cases led by the Special Prosecutor's Office in our courts are poorly led. This was also fueled by, to some extent, biased or non-professional journalism, I would say, which in combination with the new social media and the possibility for citizens to express their opinion on any matter and even become experts in judiciary, this proved to be lethal to our judiciary. Of course, and being a conservative environment by definition, our judiciary was unprepared for these issues issues with trust then raised. So what we done, we decided to form a judicial media council as a bridge between judiciary and media. It's an informal body of the Association of Judges, and I believe that this our idea will be very interesting for you to hear. It was formed in 2018 by example of one in Massachusetts, United States of America. It consisted firstly of 21 members, 11 journalists and 10 judges, and now we have 15 members in the new format. Still, judges are minority in this body. We wanted to show the journalists and public that we want to improve our transparency. This kind of body, this kind of council is first of its kind in Europe, and it issues non-obligatory opinions, recommendations. It gives initiatives for amending laws, and of course, it prepares schools for judges and journalists. There is some progress in improvement made since the establishing of this council, but still main issues still remain, and there is still much work ahead. You can see it on the right, the picture of our guidebook we issued in this council, so it's very useful for our judges and journalists. I can share later this presentation with you, and there is a website where you can check all the informations you want to know about this media council. And of course, I would like to mention issues that we have with political influence. We already talked about the composition of the Judicial Council, where actually 3 to 5 members are elected by our parliament and are proposed by the political party or by the president. Of course, they have to be distinguished lawyers, but still one of the issues we have, and it's remark from the European experts is that we have to define more closely what is a distinguished lawyer, so that we actually have real distinguished lawyers elected in the Judicial Council, which is not the case exactly now. Of course, there is allegations and perceptions that political elites influence the judiciary a lot, and it could be seen, of course, with that our judiciary is not independent in its budget. Formally, it is, but still, you have to ask for a permission from the Ministry of Finance, for example, for employment, and that is something that we want to change in the new strategy for development of our judiciary for the next period of 4 years, and become a real independent budget for financing of the judiciary. Until then, we are still coping with our requests. I can give you an example. For example, as a president of my court, I requested several employments for the next year, 2023, and I received only approval for one post. So actually today we are working with 50% of our capacities. If there is systematization and number is 120, my court now operates with only 60 employers in the court, and this also reflects on our results as a court. One other issue I would like to mention, and it's very hot. It's a political debate ongoing about this for a couple of years, and that is the vetting process, which actually we as judges are opposed to this process. It was circulated by the politicians in their political debates, and it's a kind of popularism for the masses. But foreign experts, they all agree that this vetting process is actually not needed for our judiciary, and it could cause real damage to the judiciary. It could slow down the processes, and we have enough mechanisms to actually achieve the goals of the vetting process via prosecutorial procedures. We have anti-corruptive commission ongoing. So everybody says that this vetting process is not needed in Macedonia. And we have the example of Albania. Albania undertake this vetting process, and it was disastrous for the results. It was disastrous for the judicial structure of the country. Of course, there are some benefits. A lot of corrupted judges are now out of the system, but on long terms, it will take time to recover from this process. We have appointment and advancement issues. The assessment methodology is very complex, and it took time for our Judicial Council to resolve it. For example, we have ongoing processes for appointment of judges. There are more than a year, for a year and a half, and this is a long time that some judges are waiting for their appointment. And of course, at last, I would like to mention that our judiciary and our government is fully committed to the full digitalization of the judiciary. And for me, this is one of the biggest reforms that we could do, and I will be more than happy to see it in near future. For now, there is an effort. The experts are working on a new ACMIS system for automatic distribution of cases, and of course on connecting of all institutions, judicial institutions with police, with other relevant institutions. There are databases, e-filing of acts and cases. So we are all, as judges, waiting to see the results of this process in near future. It will make our judiciary more efficient, and of course it will cost less. And for me, this is the biggest reform we can imagine. And of course, in digitalization, I must mention the online judging. We saw it during the COVID period that there is a need for something like that. We must embrace the benefits of this online judging. It will cost less, and it will be more efficient. And I must mention my colleague Shota, who is I learned a lot from his presentations about his work with online judging, and I admired him for that. I will shortly only mention the European Commission report on North Macedonia, that we achieved some level of preparation, moderately prepared to apply the EU acquis and European standards, and there are some progress noted. The judicial system of North Macedonia has achieved some level of preparation, is moderately prepared, and they noted our commitment to protect our integrity and independence. My colleague Bozhinovski will speak more about this issue. I would just briefly mention that we try to resolve our problem with lack of judges with another law and allowing not only academy to be the entry point for the judiciary, but still European experts didn't agree on that. So for now, the academy is the sole entry point for the judiciary. And they noted the work on our software system, ACMIS, that I mentioned before. I just want to share another thing. I call it what should we change if I could go back in time, and that is like an advice for you. If you could apply it, and then you will surely have results and learn from our mistakes, and that is deal with corruption. For me, this is the most important thing. Our corruption in perception for corruption and actual corruption in our judiciary and society actually is endangering the whole system, and we're heavily battling it today. And I hope that we will succeed in this battle. Of course, work on transparency. Transparency is very important because people, the citizens must see and have trust in judiciary. All your efforts, all your good work is not good enough if we don't present it towards the citizens, and they have trust in our work. That's why we need to be proactive, not only in the issue on transparency, but on all other issues, fight for our rights as judges, and therefore preserve our independence. If judiciary is one of the branches of the government is not on the level that is supposed to according to the constitution, then we have a problem with independence. And of course, what I've said before, that's investment in full digitalization. I hope that, I don't know what is the situation in Georgia, but I hope that you're in advanced point of this process, because for me, that's the future of the judiciary. I will share the presentation later, where you can find a lot of useful links if anyone is interested about North Macedonia. So that will be it for me for now, and later I will wait for your question and discussion. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Judge Gjorgii. This was very expressive and very nice and interesting presentation. But I believe we will have some thoughts shared by Mr. Andrej, and then maybe we'll continue with questions, or if any our participants have questions towards you right now, maybe you will be kind enough to answer.
Yeah, of course.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Are any questions from the participants, please?
Leah, maybe we should listen. Leah, I think we should listen to Andrej because the questions may be addressed to both, so we don't know which one is more relevant.
Raise these questions. Okay.
Yes,
okay.
Okay.
Okay. Let's turn to Mr. Andrej and have him to share his thoughts and experiences. Thank you.
Thank you very much, dear Leah. Now allow me to share my presentation with you. Okay, can you see it?
Yes, we do.
Perfect.
Mm-hmm.
Let me. Okay. So, well, there is I really appreciate first calling us today. Gjorgii made a very valid points, and he really tried. In our mutual consultations, we tried to pile up many problems into these 30 minutes of time we have, and how to present them to you, distinguished colleagues. It's as you already know, the situation is not that cut and dry. There is always some issues that go out of hand. There's always some problems that we are facing, but rest assured, in North Macedonia we're facing the same virus that all the judicial systems on the planet is that they're facing. So allow me to introduce or reintroduce myself to those colleagues who were not here at the beginning. My name is Andrej Bozhinovski. I'm a former legal advisor of the Judges Association of North Macedonia, and I'm current doctoral assistant at the Department of Criminal Law at the University of Zagreb in Croatia. In my presentation, I will continue where Judge Andonov left about the overview issues and the challenges of the judiciary in Macedonia, but in a little bit more detail. So I found this photo, and I believe it's a very beautiful photo of the Macedonian and Georgian flag. That means that we will cooperate together on these mutual issues. We will talk about judicial independence, judicial transparency, judicial ethics, strategy for judicial reform, human resources and the judiciary, as well as the real priorities of the and problems of the Macedonian judiciary with no gloves. So basically what Gjorgii said, let's start with independence. I will be presenting the European Commission as a relevant source, the European Commission's progress reports for North Macedonia starting from 2018 to 2022. So basically, those reports are unbiased and positively reflect the situation the country is facing. In almost every European Commission report, there is an urgency for implementation of recommendations for Council of Europe coming from the CEPES and or the Venice Commission. Also, every report duly notices the limited progress in the area of the judiciary, and every report starts with progress is slow. And I don't blame them. I don't blame them because of the judicial independence factor in the country. Was after the period of captured state, which was mentioned by Judge Andonov, the judicial independence period, the new government started working very dedicatedly to enhancing judicial independence. So as you can see, this is a chart representing the progress made from 2018 and 2022. As you may notice, the progress made in 2018, 19, and 20 has been more dedicational than the progress made in 2021 and the progress made in 2022. Judicial independence is one of the major problems North Macedonia is facing as a country. So, as you know, in all liberal democracies, is guaranteed by the Constitution of the Republic and preserved by the Judicial Council and the Prosecutorial Council, which are also mentioned in the same Constitution. So financial independence also is a problem of the judiciary facing in this matter. And financial independence also is very much reliant on the policies of the Ministry of Justice. Dear colleagues, the practice showed that the Judicial Council and the Prosecutorial Council, although they're bodies for preservation of judicial independence, they are also bodies which made it possible during the captured period for the government, for the executive power to have a control of the judiciary and the body for keeping the judges in check for implementation of their priorities. So also the political influence, as we can see, is not as strong as it was, but it still remains up to this day. Table 2, chart 2, is the percentage of the appropriation of the European acquis communautaire within the judicial branch. So we have here all the priorities made urgent by the European Commission, which North Macedonia must fulfill. We checked them all. So we have the position of the Judicial Academy, which is the sole entry point into the judiciary. We have promulgated a new code of judicial ethics and a new advisory committee of judicial ethics, which were deemed as a positive novelty by the European Commission. Also, I must say that working together with judges and experts, we have managed to produce and also guidelines on implementation of the Code of Judicial Ethics within the judiciary itself, so the judges know how each principle can be practically implemented. Also, the progress reports noted the proactiveness of the Supreme Court and the appellate courts in equalizing the judicial policy and the sentencing policy of the courts within the 4 different appellate areas briefly mentioned by Judge Andonov. We have also the dismissal procedure for judges and prosecutors, which was deemed inefficient. It was deemed inefficient because this procedure is very open for negative influences. This procedure in North Macedonia is very effectively slow, and it's been shown that it can be very politically abused by the judicial council. So what happens about this procedure is the lack of transparency in this procedure about when the judge finds himself into the disciplinary procedure, and the lack of a dismissal and the lack of transparency and the lack of proper explanation of the decisions of the Judicial Council leads to questionable decisions. Also, we had a case last year, 2021. Where a judge she was dismissed from the basic court in Skopje, but was not given proper explanation why she was dismissed. Furthermore, concerning judicial transparency, as Judge mentioned, we have managed to establish the Judicial Media Council. On the left here on the slide, you can see excerpt from the country progress reports from 2019, which says that Association of Judges and the Judicial Media Council actively promoted strengthening transparency as one of the tools to restore public trust in the judiciary. The Judicial Media Council is a body which only exists in 3 states and 3 Supreme Courts. First is Supreme Court of Massachusetts, the second one is the Supreme Court of Connecticut, and the third judicial media body is in Skopje. Judge Andonov and I were the same team on the project, together with the US Embassy in Skopje, which have established this body and provided the European background on how this body can work. Because it's an American invention, it's needed some root into the European legal system, or the continental legal system, on how to establish and how to operate this body. Basically, this body is a non-formal platform for presidents of courts and judges, together with journalists who cover the legal questions, to come and to discuss any possible problems within the judiciary and the access to information. As Gjorgii said, it is their decisions are not obligatable. They're only recommendations and the conclusions about certain legal issue a journalist might have in covering the story, or if the journalist has some doubts whether or not his or her story infringes the principle of presumption of innocence. The Council launched a set of reforms amending transparency provisions in key legislations: law on courts, rule book on court proceedings, law on criminal procedure, law on civil procedure, and the law for electronic placement of cases to judges, or the law on acts. So, as you may know, North Macedonia has the Yugoslav style of system, which, in order for per member of the media, or the member of the public, if you want to access a certain case files or to see the cases, you must demonstrate a legal interest into the case, which means that you must either be a party of the case or in some party victim or some way connected to this case. We want this to change, so we want the public, as with the American experiences, to have access to trial minutes actually, and this legal interest to be replaced with public interest, because if the trial was public, the public has the right to know what happened at the trial. Also, the council relaunched the holistic strategy for judicial transparency, and I used this word deliberately here, holistic. Holistic means that once this strategy was acted, each actor from judicial branch was consulted. That was mean the Supreme Court, the Appellate Court, the Public Prosecution Office of North Macedonia, the Law Bar Association of North Macedonia, the Association for Public Prosecutors, and it was led by the Association for Judges, to promulgate a holistic strategy on how to improve the judicial transparency in the country and how to allow the citizen access to public trials and, of course, information. Our main aim, the goal we wanted to achieve, was to fight fake news in the media reporting. As Judge Gjorgii mentioned, we have problems with journalists who are under the payroll, or journalists who are intendedly publishing malicious text in order to harm the judiciary or to sway public trust. Judge Andonov was too modest to admit, but there was a case in North Macedonia, especially it involved a member of a journalist team from the Judicial Media Council, which the case was during COVID, when there was a fight between two juveniles and journalists covering this case. Although she passed media training and law training within this Judicial Media Council, she published the names of even before the court made any decision, she published on her Facebook profile, which is followed by numerous people, she published the names of the perpetrators, so they lost the presumption of innocence. In the comment section, even the mainstream media picked it up. They wanted them to be punished, to be put out in pretrial detention and to punish severely. So basically, what means that the public exert pressure on the court during COVID to render a pretrial detention for a minors, which goes against the recommendations from Council of Europe during COVID. Do not restrain for putting people in pretrial detention because of the pandemic. So basically, this is the problem we are facing, and these are the fake news that we are facing on the judiciary in any moment. And this the purpose of this council is just to mitigate to restore public trust of the judiciary, and to train journalists on basic legal concept and basic legal question and understanding, and how to tell them actually how the case works, how the system works. Further on, judicial ethics. Also, there is an excerpt of the latest report of the European Commission about judicial ethics. It says the Advisory Council of Judicial Ethics within the Judge Association, they met 4 times since June 2021 and issued 4 opinions. If you ask me, this is way too little. To be critical, this is way too little. They needed to be more proactive. However, having in mind that we did not have such council or practice in the past, this is some sort of positive development. The 4 opinions, also the opinions here do not have any legal power. They can only be used as an advisory document in a process for dismissal or promotion of judges, and that's only their power. However, because they're brought by the Advisory Council of the Judge Association, which every judge in North Macedonia is a member of, it brings some sort of heaviness. So with Professor Moliterno, we had exchange about this and how judicial ethics is very important. within the changes of the law on judicial council, not adherence to the code of judicial ethics as a basis for dismissal of a judge was eliminated, because the research showed that was the basis which was most abused in the past for dismissal of judges. Also, we had, because of this provision of not adherence to the code of judicial ethics, in 2010 or 2011, Gjorgii knows, maybe 15 judges from Skopje were dismissed from misdemeanor and from the misdemeanor courts, and that government showed it as a fight against judicial corruption, which was not apparently because those judges they were stripped of their immunity by the Judicial Council, and they didn't get the chance to prove their story in court. However, the press did its job. We also had in cooperation with the association and the OSCE, we promulgated guidelines for implementation of the Code of Judicial Ethics for judges and lay judges, which were deemed positively by Greco Commission of the Council of Europe. Actually, with Jim Moliterno, we discussed these guidelines, which is very important for judges to know how the principles are implemented in practice. The principle of judicial integrity, the principles of judicial independence, and of course the principle for prevention of conflict of interest. Now, also here in the new code of ethics, we did not forget the lay judges, because Macedonia still does not have a jury as in the American system, but also have lay judges, which are part of every major trial or normal trial if it's a panel of 3 or 5 judges, depending on the panel. And this code for the first time also envisages the behavior of the lay judge. And also, furthermore, I like to stipulate in this area that we have managed to add provisions for prevention of gifts and how to deal with gifts if a gift was given by the judge on some visit, and how the judge should or make do with this gift. So basically, we have introduced the register for gifts for each court, and the form of reporting a gift in each court, the value of the gift, of course, and how the court will access that gift, and what the court will do and the judge will do with that gift it has received. However, the research also indicated that more training on judicial ethics and awareness-raising activities for the role of the advisory council are still needed in the country. Moving on to the strategy and action plan for the reform of the judiciary. So if you ask a politician, they will tell you the best reform is pro forma. The best reforma is pro forma. So basically, don't do anything, just put some makeup on it, and eventually it will go away. First of all, we have the problem of appointing judges, and we have the problem, as Gjorgii mentioned, with the criterion distinguished lawyer. I know that this criterion in the laws was placed as in bona fide, in good faith, because there are distinguished lawyers among persons who are not judges, or other persons who are clerks in the judicial, in the courts and everything, or persons coming from academia. But also a distinguished lawyer, I ask you, also makes it a prisoner. A prisoner is a distinguished lawyer who knows the system, criminal procedure system inside out, and so on and so forth. So what I want to say here, that this criterion for distinguished lawyer was abused by all governments, including the current government, by placing people who are not judges, but who are more or less controllable. So Gjorgii failed to mention in his presentation that now we had maybe we will come back to this to the discussion, but the president of the Judicial Council was dismissed last month, I believe, Gjorgii. It was for corruption, because she came this was power corruption. It had nothing to do with money, but she learned to. She came prepared with a list of candidates from the academy, I believe, and also it was prepared list. It was not the list of the academy, and the president was dismissed. She was not a judge. She was also she was a distinguished lawyer, and as the criterion from the law stipulates. This is a major problem, dear colleagues, which is constantly noted by the European Commission consecutively, that also different strategies for reform are not positive development. Every government, when it comes to power in North Macedonia, has its own strategy for reform. Every government, it's not coherent, and and if another political party comes to power, they have a different reform, and the clock starts again from zero. There is no consistency at all. We are not efficient in implementing the strategies. In 2017, with the new government, the NGO sector came to more prominence, and it was treated as a rightful partner to the government concerning the reforms. However, now the NGO sector is also treated as a pariah, without even mentioning that all the initiatives and the strategies for reform comes from the NGO sector in the country, including the Judge Association, which is a specialized NGO organization. We have the implementation of the electronic system for case distribution of ACME system. The ACME system works, however, the ACME system is not complete. The ACME system not only it's not complete, it's not connected with the prosecution office and the police to give it some way of one connectivity or one-stop shop, as the Americans call it, for a judge to check the evidence, to check all the findings, to check the depositions, and to increase the efficiency in the case and decrease the bureaucratic leniency of the court staff. Now, there were some reforms and changes made to the ACME's law on ACMEs, which are still in parliamentary proceedings. However, we will have to wait to see what those changes are. Also, furthermore, on this issue, ACME's law was changed in order for the possibility to introduce online trials, which is a very positive development by the Council of Europe. Furthermore, the strategy and action plan, sustainable transparency provisions are needed, which is noted by the European Commission documents, which means transparency provisions in the work of both councils, not the courts. The problem is in the councils, the Judicial Council and the Prosecutorial Council. They're not transparent. They don't give legally detailed explanations of their decisions. We had in North Macedonia, there was an election for a new prosecutor for organized crime and corruption, and the Judicial and the Prosecutorial Council failed to explain why that candidate was the most suitable one. In every decision, whether it's a dismissal of a prosecutor, their explanations are very vague. I believe law students from first year can write better explanations than the ones are presented. They're very short, they're not professional, and they're not containing the legal language which is needed. Concerning the Judicial Council, every strategy and action plan calls for their reforms, but failed to acknowledge the fact that if you want to make changes in the Judicial Council, you must start within the composition of the Judicial Council, and the composition of the Judicial and the Prosecutorial Council are mentioned in the Constitution. So if you want changes in the Judicial Council, you need to change the Constitution of the country, which is a very difficult thing to do. You need a majority in parliament to achieve that. Also, another problems which are in the judiciary in North Macedonia: human resources, financial independence, and judicial independence, as we mentioned. There is a crisis for new judges in the judiciary. Gjorgii will explain this better in the discussion, but the Ministry of Justice, in consultations with the government and the association, noticed that the lack of expert associates with judges, and they have noticed and they published the problem that around 100 judges, approximately 100 or more judges, are due to retire during 2023 or 2024, and there are no new candidates for replacement, which means that the court will remain without judges in smaller places. All other judges will have to pick up, younger judges will have to pick up their workload for the judges who went for retirement. Which is a very negative thing to do, and this is only problem because there is no sustainable strategy for a reform or action plan for a reform. Also, the human resources in the judiciary remains major problem because there is no expert associates to judges. The judge, the judge does everything by himself, which is not according by the law. The judge reads the case, the judge writes the verdict, the judge also distributes justice, and also he has to deal with other bureaucratic issues which take away his time and his awareness and his focus from doing his job, which is distribution of justice. According to this, Judge Gjorgii is one of the judges who wanted to install the spirit of activism within the Macedonian judiciary, which means that we wanted to follow the Polish example from Justitia in Poland, from the Justitia Judge Association in Poland, so that the judges can organize a march of the robes in Skopje. We wanted for our demands, for the judges' demands to be heard by the government. We wanted this idea to instill that judges are not a force to be reckoned. They're a force to be reckoned with. They're not administrative servants. They're judges. They're bearers of the third branch of government. And I believe in the Association of Judges must campaign more and for this activism and also for increasement of the salaries of judges. The salaries of Macedonian judges are are the lowest one in Europe. Furthermore, these are the real issues, and I will be very brief about it, and we will go back for it's better to do this in discussion, so we are through questions and answers, so we can manage, we can get more recommendation and conclusion. So we have a political negative influence in the selection and dismissal process in the judiciary and the public prosecution office. Every country in the world has political influence. However, there are no mechanisms for this to be stopped. Also, political campaigning in smearing the image of the judiciary is a new method for gathering points in every elections. Every political party, if the ratings go low, they smear the image of the judiciary. In 2020, in the midst of COVID, the government announced, because it was an emergency situation, the government is authorized to issue a decree. In the decree, the government mentioned that they will decrease the salaries of administrative workers and judges. They were not authorized to do so. That decision was blocked by the Constitutional Court. However, the press and the public presented this image as the judges do not want to give up their salaries for the rest of us to fight COVID, or even though the government does not have the authority through an order to decrease the salary of judges. Furthermore, more trainings on judicial ethics and integrity are needed, as well as training on prevention of conflict of interest in the judiciary. Judicial salaries must be increased, as we mentioned, and media training for judges and court PR professionals is also needed for the courts to learn to communicate with the public without using heavy legal language. Thank you very much for your attention, and I give now the word to Leah, and I'm happy to answer any questions you have.
Oh, thank you, Andrej. That was very interesting, and now floor is for Kaha to ask questions. If not, then I will have few questions for our distinguished guest. Kaha, are you online?
Hello. Yes, I think Leah, you shall also keep the list of people who want, because we have other volunteers as well to express opinions. But okay, as you give me the floor, I will use that opportunity.
Please.
Okay, thank you. First of all, I am Kaha Tsikarishvili. So we have some noise coming from somewhere. There is a noise coming. Okay. First of all, I'm Kaha Tsikarishvili, and I am a member of a group of independent lawyers. I have been a member of Judicial Disciplinary Committee approximately 5 or actually 7 years ago. So We are basically, our group is working on many issues, including judicial disciplinary, judicial self-government, appointment of judges, and also lastly, and quite recently, we have started a project which is about the case delay, to understand the reasons of the case delay and to accelerate, somehow to accelerate the pace of litigation in the Georgian courts. Of course, in Georgia, we have many problems, and some of those problems are similar to the Macedonian problems. For example, as you said, the judicial academy, you talked about the judicial academy, and you said it is a problem because the judicial academy has a limited number of students, which is a problem for increasing the number of judges in the judiciary. And we have exactly the same problem here in Georgia. We have a school of justice, high school of justice, and this is the only way, this is almost the only way of becoming a judge. And the high school of justice in Georgia also has a very limited number of positions, and sometimes they stop to accept students. You know, for some period of time, they stopped to accept the students, and that was the reason why we did not have people coming in the judiciary, and there was a shortage. There was a big shortage of judges. You also mentioned something about. You also mentioned something. Just a second. Let me remember that. You mentioned something about election. You also talked about the election of non-judicial members in the High Council of Justice, and we also have the same requirement that it should be a distinguished lawyer. And it's exactly the same problem. Nobody knows what is a distinguished lawyer. In the past 5 or 6 years, we have elected people in High Council of Justice, and I don't think that I don't think there is a consensus that they were distinguished lawyers. I don't think that the public thinks that they were some of them were distinguished lawyers. Now I'm going to move to the questions. My question is about judicial association. Do you have one single judicial association, and is every judge the member of the association? Now my second question is how the judges elect their colleagues in the Judiciary Council. Are they supported by the Judicial Association, or maybe they are not supported by the Judicial Association? Do you have a competition in the High Council, Judiciary Council, for the election of the Judiciary Council? Do you have, and what kind of competition? For one vacancy, how many candidates do you have for one vacancy, for example? My third question is about so-called legitimacy of judiciary and legitimacy of Judicial Council. In post-Soviet judiciaries, and also in Eastern Europe, and also probably in other transitional democracies, the European Union and Council of Europe and the Venice Commission has been advocating for judicial self-government. Now, my question is, in post-Soviet countries, how is the judiciary legitimized? The reason I'm raising the question is that if the judges are selected, who is selecting the Judiciary Council? Judiciary Council is elected by the judges. Who is appointing the judges? Judges are appointed by the Judiciary Council. So it's like some kind of a circle of legitimization. So judges, they legitimize Judiciary Council, and Judiciary Council, it legitimizes the judges. Actually, but the real question is, how do you break the chain of the Soviet past? If the Soviet judges have elected in Macedonia, for example, was it that the post-Soviet judges have elected Judiciary Council? How they broke the chain with the Soviet past? Because the judicial self-government may also become a method for preserving judicial culture, and it can be a negative judicial culture and positive judicial culture. When you have a self-government, you can, in this way, you can preserve a judicial culture which cannot not always be a positive culture. And that's it. My last question is about, yes, corporativism. The corporativism. Do you have a problem of judicial corporativism when the judges are using the self-government in order to promote their corporate interest? For example, judges, they try to get reappointed by using a judiciary council. They try to get reappointed if this is a problem. And the very last question about access to the remote court hearings. Does the public have the access to the remote court hearings in Macedonia, and how frequently do you have now the remote court hearings? And I think that's enough for now. Thank you very much in advance.
George, do you want to take question by question, or?
I can answer some of them, and then you can add on. So I can just briefly, I will start with the question about the post-Soviet judges. I must explain that we in Macedonia, we were part of Yugoslav Federation, and luckily we didn't have any Soviet presence in our country. So our socialist experience is much different than yours and the ones in Czechia and Slovakia. I've talked about it with Shota and other colleagues on a few occasions, and I see that actually we have a good positive feel about those period, and there were actually a good stable judiciary. If we neglect the sum of the political influence, there was a quality judiciary in that period. But the question still remains about the legitimacy of the Judicial Council. Actually, Kaka, you described the independence of judiciary. Of course, that we elect our representatives in Judicial Council, and of course that they elect our judges. That is the point of independence. And one our politician once mentioned that we should let the judiciary as itself. It will make errors, it will make mistakes on the path, but with time it will make progress. So for me, there is no real danger of some alienation of judiciary in terms of having in circle turning around. I will then return to the first question. There is only one judicial association in Macedonia, and 85% of the judges are in this association. But as I mentioned, I'm not satisfied with the level of activism, the passivization of the judges, the fear, the self-censorship they still impose themselves on themselves. It's obvious, and we try to change this. For now, there is no visible progress in this area, but there was a momentum. What Andrei mentioned this year, when we were ready to make a protest about our salaries and go out on the streets, but it was some of the part of the judges backed down, so it didn't happen. So not every judge is part of this association, but I always speak with my colleagues that this association is our syndicate, and we need organization, we need to organize in order to achieve our rights. So election of members of Judicial Council, yes, there is a competition, and those colleagues actually they do a little bit of campaigning around the country. They visit courts, they talk with judges. I even encourage them to make programs or like of their topics that they would like to examine when they become members of the Judicial Council. So there is a level of transparency, satisfactory transparency in this area. Although again, it's not enough. You can still sense some kind of influence by non-judicial entities in this process. It needs to be improved in future, hopefully. About the corporatism, yes, there are some cases when judges use their position and their relations and connections in the judicial establishment to promote their interest and to advance themselves in the judicial scale. But I think it's something that occurs in every judiciary, maybe in every in the world. And about the access to remote court hearings, unfortunately, we don't have as a legal opportunity now. So there are amendments to the criminal procedural law actually pending now in the parliament, and we are as judges giving opinions about this law. I myself will propose that this law should allow judges to entertain remote courts whenever they see that suitable. For now, the proposal is that only if there is a danger for delay of the process. So I hope this will be changed, and in future remote court hearings will be in everyday use in Macedonia, and our trials are public. So again, these remote court hearings, the idea is for them to be available to the broad audience, especially once cases that are of higher public interest, like prosecution against some politicians or functionaries. So hopefully it will be the case. Okay, Andrei, you can add your thoughts. Thank you for your questions, Kaka.
Yeah, I really like these questions. They're right on the point. I'm to tell you the truth, in Macedonia concerning the communist past of the country, there were some very disgraceful attempts by the government to. It was some sort of a political pressure on the judiciary to frame several judges as collaborators of the former secret services, but then that backfired, and the Constitutional Court just annulled both laws, which turns out that it was only a witch hunt. It was not really they were not really collaborators. And also to the politician who used that argument, the communist past is what, 30, almost 40 years behind us. We had generations of new judges who could rebuild that system, which were brought up into the democratic republic, so they can change the system and implement the new democratic norms. So that is not much of a concern. Concerning, I will answer not all the questions because I do not want to overlap with Gjorgii. Concerning the Association of Judges, it is one association for all judges in North Macedonia. It is the only body which is specialized to represent the judges and act as an unofficial judges union, and to act on their behalf, to protect the judges, and also to promote their rights and their freedoms. It is the only freedom of association they are allowed to by the laws and by the ethical guidebooks. The Association of Judges during the capture period, it was very, very inefficient, and it was very silent. It was for a purpose. During this new period, the association got rebranded and start working tirelessly on this. However, in the last year, it's been not very active. Especially, it's been very passive. It should do more about judges' activism and negotiating with the Ministry of Justice concerning the salaries of judges, as well as the Advisory Council of Judicial Ethics and Judicial Transparency for the process. But yes, the Judge Association is the main focal point on it. And concerning the access to online trials, the records of online trials, yes, the media was in every trial. The media was shared the link of the trial so they can log in and to follow the trial as they are here, as they're present, to preserve the principle of publicity. Thank you, Kaka.
Thank you.
Thank you, gentlemen. There were ladies raising hands and have a question. Please, Eka Sigmakuridze and Keta Japaridze, please ask your questions to our distinguished guests.
Thank you, Leah. Good evening, everyone, hosts, participants, speakers. Thank you for these amazing presentations. This was really very informative. I have a lot of questions. However, I will constrain myself with maybe one or two questions. First of all, I will introduce myself. I am Eka Sigmakuridze. I represent local Georgian civil society organization, Democracy Index Georgia, and also I am the member of the group of independent lawyers. It was really very interesting, and the background of North Macedonia, it's so in many ways similar to Georgia, and it's very relevant to now listen and maybe to know from you more about EU integration process. You might know that Georgia is going through the same path, and we are trying to achieve the candidate status, which North Macedonia already has. My question is really very particular regarding what is the difference between before the candidate status and after the candidate status in terms of EU more pushing the reforms, maybe? Do they help more the candidate countries to really implement the reforms needed? Do they push more politically, or the approach is similar as before the candidate status? Why I'm asking this, because in Georgia many really talk about what's going to change for us after candidate status, and whether we should receive candidate status before reforms are really implemented, and will we lose this leverage, or we, on the contrary, the EU's presence, EU's push towards the reforms will increase? What is your experience in this? How exactly, with what kind of tools and mechanisms? Maybe this is EU monitoring mechanism or other tools. How EU influences implementation of the reforms after candidate status is granted to the country? Thank you.
Okay, Gjorgii, do you mind if I take the first part of the question? From my personal experience, I was member of 3 working commissions within the Ministry of Justice of the country, working on this of equalizing our legislation with the acquis communautaire. And also, I know for a fact that before the candidacy status, the observation of the European Union into the affairs of North Macedonia was very low. We only showed interest, but the EU said, okay, so you show your interest, and then we will see how it goes. But after we have received the candidacy status, we are under the constant scrutiny. I must say that EU scrutinizes us. With the reports, the European Commission reports are having more tangible recommendations and conclusions in which sectors we must dedicate ourselves in doing. And this is not a pride ownership or anything, but once we saw, can you imagine the feeling when you see something you have worked on to be part of the European Commission report, the Judicial Media Council? And we celebrated this moment, even though it was just a one line, and how we helped promoting judicial transparency by establishing this council. The feeling was phenomenal. But yes, the more scrutiny it is, and this gives the less probability of political actors to promulgate arbitrary decisions. And you, of course, you have to understand that we have received candidacy status after we exited the captured state period. So the EU knew that our judiciary is in captured state, actually. And so basically, yes. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, and I can add only this. I agree totally with Andrej, and I can only say that we need this kind of pressure, this shadow of European Union and our Western friends, because we until now we've shown that we are not capable of ourselves arranging and making progress. So we need this kind of positive pressure, someone watching us and guiding us in this process. So for me, this is a positive thing. Actually, this month, there is a team from Washington coming to Macedonia to help our authorities in dealing with heavy corruption. So we all know that there is corruption every part of the society, but of course we need help from others to fight it. So for me, it's a positive thing.
Oh, thank you. Keta, as I see Keta had the question. Please, Keta.
Thank you, Ms. Liam. Keta Japaridze, the board member of Democracy Index Georgia, with a group of independent lawyers and with the support of USAID Rule of Law program. We organize discussions in the frame of International Network of Judicial Reformers. And of course, I want to thank you very much, dear Gjorgii and dear Andrei, for this very informative and useful presentations, because as you know, and as we're talking about, that Georgia has now the momentum to receive the candidate status of membership of the EU. And so for us, it's very important to have such experience and to share your opinion about getting how can we receive this status. And I want to ask you to share with us your experience. How do you think when European Commission will assess the implementation of 12 recommendations, what will be decisive? As you mentioned, the cosmetic reforms can be deemed as implementation of the reforms, or maybe just there will be assessed everything thoroughly. So just the will of government and just society and just a sum of amendments will be how they will assess it will be considered as a fulfillment of this recommendation or not for receiving the status.
Thank you, Keta. Please.
Okay, I can start. Thank you, Kate. A very relevant question indeed. How the reforms will be perceived. Also, what we failed to mention, none of our reforms in North Macedonia would be possible without the help of the US Embassy or our American friends, to be honest. Because Europeans are good, they're slow in moments, but the US experts and judges which we brought for our programs, they did not hesitate to point out where the problem lies. And I really like when they tell you, you have a problem with this, you have a problem with corruption, you have to address it, and that's it. And in the European Union, will try to put it in a language that nobody understands. You know about having, la 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 la. And that's another issue. The European Commission, for example, although they produce this heavy legal language for everybody to read, but also they value the structure reforms. They knew that we have created a judicial council, prosecutorial council. They know everything, but their teams assessed the people they're meeting with, the presidents and the members of judicial council. And when you see when you see that there is no credibility in those people, or those people, like one study in Macedonia which was conducted, they were asked concretely, judges, which branch of government do you think is the most important one? And all the judges said it's the executive, the government. without failing to understand that all branches of government are equal. And I like to point out that the European Commission always assesses the people they're dealing with. They see in Macedonia on paper it's better than the US on paper. Protection of human rights, judicial, everything. In practice, it's always the human factor. It's always the human factor which is responsible for the corruption, which is responsible for selection of judges, dismissal of judges, the fight for organized crime, or for anything. And the European Union sees that because it is not only one expert team. There, throughout the year, there are experts teams that coming and talk with judges, and of course, those are people with experience, which you cannot weasel your way out of it through smooth talking and anything. They can read you from a kilometer, and that is what happened, especially in chapter 24, because now we're talking about chapter 23. In chapter 24, Macedonia got finally a good grade for updating its security intelligence system, and we have received this positive grade just because we really did made some structural reforms. We sealed all the holes and changed all the people with dubious criminal past who controlled those institutions. So always the approach is holistic, Keta. Just to summarize, the approach is holistic and not cosmetic. So in Macedonia, they did just that. And for the record, Georgia is a country of David the Builder. So definitely you will find to make something, and you will build something to which the European Commission will assess it as a positive development. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
If I may add something, again, I agree with Andrej. He's expert on this field, so I agree with him. But for me, there are still strict benchmarks, and as Andrej put it, Europeans would like to see some tangible, visible results and change of mindset and approach by the professionals, by the people. They have experts here on the ground, and they see everything, they know everything. So there is no way that we could hide anything or try to weasel something in. That will be disastrous for us. I mean, for you also. So, and one other thing, no matter how we are prepared, at the end it will be a political decision. So these are the factors that will contribute whether your accession will be accelerated or stalled. Because, for example, Macedonia in one period of time was one of the most advanced in this part of this region of Europe, South Europe. And with the blockade from Greece, because of the name dispute, we stalled for almost 20 years. This caused security problems. This caused financial problems for our society. So again, no matter how prepared you are, at the end it will be a political decision mainly. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. May I ask you this particular question regarding selection of judges? How selection criteria, law or practice changed before accession, before having status for North Macedonia, and afterwards? Is there any change there regarding the law or the practice? And please, yes.
There are no changes. I mean, obvious changes. The only entry point, as we mentioned, is the Academy for Judges. So actually, the Judicial Council appoints the candidates that have graduated from the Academy, and the most important is to be listed on what place you have on the list for when you graduate. So the first they have to choose, they get to choose where they will be appointed, and the last ones they are appointed by the council. So this is decision that probably will undertake some changes in near future, because we see it's not fair and not efficient enough. But there are no changes. The Academy is the only place where judges are produced, and later the Judicial Council appoints them from the list from the Academy. And for higher courts, there are some objective criteria. As I mentioned in my presentation, this criteria is pretty complex. The methodology they adopted last year is pretty complex, and it took a real amount of time to examine all the needs, the requirements of this methodology, and therefore all the processes, all the open processes that are now in Macedonia for appointments in higher courts are stale because of this slow procedure of assessment by this methodology. So again, we see that this must be changed. There must be some more simpler, easier way for assessing the effects and results of one judge. And I would like to mention something that we always start from the point of view of not having confidence in one. We always seek. We always start from the negative side of things. We don't have, for example, I can tell. I don't know whether it's in Georgia. We have to pass a test for integrity, and it has value for only 5 or 4 years, I believe. After that, you pass again this test, and this test is performed on a computer. It's a test like you can get on any newspaper or website. And I always joke with my colleagues, judges, that our integrity that is built with years and years of hard work and honesty is actually evaluated by some IT technician who designed this test. So as Andrei mentioned, a lot of things designed in our system is pro forma, but we need to be more substantial. And that is why what Europeans assess, they evaluate these substantial things. So hopefully I answered the question.
If I may a little, Gjorgii, just to say that before the Academy, the judges were appointed by the Assembly, and it was a very dark period because there was no oversight on the appointment of judges, and that mechanism was abused for former politicians who ran out of their careers to be appointed as a Supreme Court justices, which are still members to this day. Which does not have any letter of the law. They learn as you go, and it's like letting the fox inside the hen house. And so basically, once the academy system was established, the European Commission and the relevant authorities in North Macedonia, in Macedonia at that time, determined that the academy should be the only training and entry point. And once once that was settled in, every candidate going through the academy ended up on a list, and that list was sent to is now sent to the Judicial Council. And the Judicial Councils, according to the number of places which are vacant, just disposes the judges there to work on that case. And that's predominantly how it goes. Thank you. I just wanted to add this.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. Very, very interesting. Are there any other questions? Or please?
Leah, if I may, I have just a couple of questions, okay? I'm sorry, I'm using my second chance to give you some more questions. But because this is a very interesting conversation, and I'm also trying to use your time, but I will ask some questions which I think are very important also for us, for Georgia. My first question is about court presidents. How, and Gjorgii, as I understand, you are a court president, and a question is, how are the court presidents appointed? What is the procedure and what is the criteria for the appointment of court presidents? And also, what is your everyday what is your everyday work? Is it more administrative work or is it more trial work? Do you do administrative work in the trial? Which one you do most? And my second question is about the reputation of judges. Do the judges care about their reputation in the public and in the professional community? Do the judges, generally, do the judges care about their reputation in the public and in the legal community? And my third question is about the confidence to the judicial system in the high profile cases. When there is a high profile case, what is the public confidence? What does the public think about it? Do they believe that the judge will be independent, or do they believe that the judge will be in favor of the parliament, in favor of the governing party, or in favor of the political class, or in favor of a famous businessman? What is the confidence of the public in the high profile cases, and also what is the confidence of the opposition? Does the opposition trust the judges? Do they say that, okay, we are going to trust the judiciary, let's see what judges do, what judge does on this case? In Georgia, for example, when there is a high profile case, the judges, the opposition, they will say, we don't trust the judges, we know that they will be biased. So that's what happens. We know the judge will be biased on a high profile case, and so that's the general environment. So thank you. These are my questions. Thank you in advance.
I managed to write them.
Okay.
Thank you, Keta. Can I use the first to answer the first two questions, and then I will let Andrei answer third and some of these questions. As a court president, you are elected in a similar way as the judges. We have to present your program of list of what are your vision of how to develop the court's work, how to improve court's work. So you have to apply with a program. Of course, your previous work is also evaluated as judge, and there is some discretion in hands of the Judicial Council to decide which candidate is most suitable to become a president. Of course, there are a lot of factors they consider, and hopefully, in my case, they decided for the best candidate.
And sorry, can I ask you, how many did you have competitors, and how many competitors did you have?
Yes, I'm the youngest judge in my court, and I have two more candidates with me applying for the same position. Also, this is also worth mentioning that we are a judiciary that is predominantly a woman judiciary. Almost 65% of all judicial professionals in every category are women, and still, when there is applying for governing, positions as presidents or high, women do not, they hesitate. They let men to apply for these positions. This is something that we should consider and think about. What does it mean in our society? About what does it say about our society? You asked me what is my everyday work. For the first year, I tried to be a trial judge and a president, but it's impossible if you want to achieve results. So for the last 2 years, I work only as a president. I have cases, a small case file, which do not require to be in a courtroom. So I decided here, like when there is a evaluation of indictment, for example, I'm a judge for evaluation of indictment, and I have our bigger courts have a court administrator. So it's like a second hand to the president, and I always emphasize the role of this person, because without them we do not succeed. For me, courts administrators are like the collective memory of the courts. They do everyday works, and the presidents are here to decide on significant matters as it should be. But still, in practice, that is not the case. I decide on various issues every day. For example, whether the window is broken, and then I return to my cabinet and decide on, for example, program for the next year. So it's a real galiamatis of work in every day. You mentioned about the care of reputation by judges. Of course, we care a lot. We are always guidance. Our guidance is according to our code of ethics, and especially in smaller towns, there is a real problem because your everyday life is limited. You cannot go to certain places or restaurants, or at least if you go, you should behave yourself. Limit your circle of friends. So actually, our professional call, our judicial call, is very restrictive, very limiting for our everyday personal life. It's a burden that we carry with ourselves, but we decided to be judges. So,
Gjorgii, sorry, I forgot to ask, who is speaking on behalf of the judiciary? Are they reputable judges? The judges with the best reputation? I mean, who is the speaker? Who is speaking on behalf of your judiciary? Are they judges with the best reputation or with a bad reputation?
Kaka, that was the thing that I mentioned before. I'm not satisfied with the level of judicial activism. I myself always encourage, especially younger judges, to be more proactive, even use social media, Twitter, write blogs, to go to TV shows or give press releases. But that is something that it takes time. It needs to takes time to change, because mindset of judges is that we need to be closed. We don't have to open towards the public. So this is something that hopefully it will change in future. And you mentioned who is speaking about the judge on behalf of judges. Predominantly is the Association of Judges. Andrei mentioned that is the unique organization, like a union of judges, but there is possibility for another organization of judges. There is it's not forbidden to organize in other organizations, but for now, this is the only tool that we have for expressing our unified opinion. And again, I encourage every young judge to be more proactive, to be out there in the public, talking about debates. Andrei mentioned the Justitia Association in Poland, one of the 4, and I believe it's the biggest one. They even go to rock concerts. They go to, they run on tracks. They go to towns and have coffee with citizens. They are proactive when they explain the work of judges. So when I spoke before about the transparency and creating a positive image, that is the path that we should undertake also. I even consider in my court to have mock trials for children, for example, because we need to groom these little citizens about the judiciary. We need to teach them about the judiciary, so when they become grown persons, they will have positive feel for the judiciary.
If you allow me, Kaka,
please do so.
Thank you. So actually, you mentioned the court presidents, and I fully agree with Gjorgii on every of the questions. Court presidents, they have in court management, in the debt discipline, they have administrative role, more administrative role than judicial role. However, in past, that position knew how to be abused as well, because they have a power over the timeline and of appointment of cases. So what happened? It was a very negative examples from Macedonia, where court presidents, in some organized crime cases or some very high political cases, They appointed judges who knew how to get the job done, or judges who who are taking the government side or the political side or whatever. So in my opinion, and following the experience from the Netherlands, I believe the role of court presidents should be reduced. Just to, if there's a toilet paper, or should we get a new window or a new door, or that's it. That's it. I mean, concerning that reputation of judges. Kaka, do you know that we had a judge from neighboring Serbia? This was an example, and I'm not kidding about this. We had a judge who filed an opinion to the Serbian Council of Advisory Council of Judicial Ethics, whether or not it is ethical for her to be part of a reality TV show like Big Brother. Can you imagine that? Like, can you imagine that? So she either must slept through ethics in law school, or missed that, skipped that class in law school. However, but that is only one isolated case. Of course,
what kind of TV show? I'm sorry, what kind of TV show was that? It depends on the nature.
It's a Big Brother TV show, reality. They live in one house. You know.
Okay, Big Brother. Okay.
Yeah.
And was she allowed by the council?
No, of course. she represent the judicial branch.
Was she disciplined for that request?
No, of course not.
But became famous, right?
Yeah, she is famous in legal circles for asking that, but it's not famous by participating in the Big Brother. So that's what I know so far. So judges usually, apart with several exceptions, care about their reputation, and that is why they have the Advisory Council of Judicial Ethics. That is what I mentioned. More trainings are needed. Advisory Council of Ethics is not here just to say, "Oh, you did something wrong." That is our mentality. Yeah, you did something wrong. Now you have to pay. That's different mentality. The Advisory Council here to show you whether or not some behavior or activity you want to do, whether or not it's compatible with your judicial functions or not. It's not here to punish you. It's not here to say that you did something wrong or to judge you. Just to say whether or not something is ethical or not. For example, we had these opinions Gjorgii mentioned. The first opinion I remember, because I helped draft it, was the opinion about whether or not judges are allowed to have social media accounts on Facebook or Instagram or LinkedIn. The opinion was yes, they are allowed. However, they're not allowed to publish political content. They're not allowed to, they can publish those tacky pictures, of happy birthday, but not a political content. They can use also hidden identity, or they can post pictures without explicit content, nudes, I don't know, or something like that. You cannot do that. But the judge is a human being, and as a human being also enjoys certain liberties, which and these regulations exist because we hold them to a higher standards. Actually, what we're saying, they're better than us, and we should treat them like that. Also, confidence of the system in high-profile crime cases. We had high-profile crime cases. That's why our former prime minister is in Budapest right now, waiting to be extradited. They will not extradited to Macedonia, but the confidence of the system, although I must say it's very high. Do you know why? Because every survey, you will find it on the internet. Usually it's made of 200 or 300 people, and only God knows what kind of methodology they used it. The methodology is very important. So if you go to the village, or you go to impoverished neighborhoods with low social stature in the city, they would tell what judiciary. They don't know what a judge is. They think it's a bureaucrat, and they will say, well, they're corrupt. They're all corrupt. They'll say they're all corrupt, meaning about politicians. They don't know. They don't differentiate which is a judge, which is a. so that's what usually surveys are made. Also, surveys are ordered by interest groups. I would say them. They're ordered, so they can squeeze the results pertaining what according to what agenda they might be. And almost in every case, they don't publish methodology, or they don't publish the error index for how much error points you're mistaken in your statistics or conclusions. In Macedonia, the people actually have more faith in the judiciary than they do in prosecution or the police. Nobody trusts the police, and that is why on one discussion in Macedonia, I said in all liberal new states, the constitution puts the entire faith of limiting human rights and freedoms to the judges and not to the police or the public prosecutors. If it's up to them, we will be all in jail and they'll be happy because their job is done. So that is why the public has a confidence. The main question we want through the activities of the judge associations to do is whether or not when the person or the citizen goes to court in a criminal or civil matter, when you look to the judge, do you see an impartial arbiter of justice, distributor of justice, or you see administrative apparatchik in front of you? And that is the main issue. That is why we want to raise the awareness. Judges are not monsters. Judges are your friends. In almost every high-profile case Macedonia had, the judge did the right thing. The politics fucks up later, but the judge, the court, does the best thing. We had Gjorgii, the terrorism case of Smilkovsky, the first judgment when the court rendered the life sentences, and then it was overturned by political manipulations and ending. But the court came through. The court came through, saw the terrorism charges, and depending on individual responsibility, they penalized the perpetrators. Also with the special prosecution cases, Gjorgii knows, the court, in every case, it was the problem in the prosecutor, either too much drama or corruption, as we saw it in the end, never at the judge. And yet, the public said, no, they don't work out. But I'm telling you, the public has a trust in the judiciary, and I think if we want to make it, if we want to see it, the entire trust, you either make a comprehensive poll of, I don't know, 500,000 inhabitants, going every village, every town, and make a poll, or don't limit to 200 or 300, survey people. It won't work. So thank you. Yeah, that's my answer.
Oh, thank you very much. Thank you very much. I think do we have any more questions? No? Oh, we took even longer time than we expected because of your comprehensive and very important comments and answers to our questions. Thank you very much for that. And I believe now we have more or less good understanding how judiciary functions, how your system is developing and achieving good results. And I wish you all the best for your very difficult job. And I hope we will meet again to discuss the good results and success we achieve in our country. Thank you so much, and best wishes from Georgia to you.
Thank you very much, Julia. Thank you very much. It's an honor for us to be here and invited, and that's from me, Judge Andonov.
Yeah, and hopefully we'll see each other in the European Club very soon.
Thank you.
Together.
Thank you. Goodbye.
Thank you.
Goodbye.
Bye.
See you.
Bye.
See you. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.